My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 295 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 10th in the evening. It suddenly became summertime since the last time we recorded, or maybe the week before that. I don't know. It's just summer now. From Gadsden, New York, where it is very hot. It is me, Ridiculous Hat. From Kerosene, California, where it's probably the same temperature as always. It's Botticus.
It's 69 degrees and sunny.
Nice. And from Undercity, Pennsylvania, it's Edelweiss.
Hello.
And listeners, wherever you are, we're supported directly by you. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/coinconcede. And also support us by leaving an iTunes review totally free. Really helps other people find the show. Big thanks to our newest patrons, HyperRealMG, Mr. Bungalow, and Mr. Kerfluffle. Thank you so much for your support. Also, a note. You can support us if you want by coming to the Twitch channel, the live stream, which we do every Thursday night at 8:30-ish when we're on time, which is rare. And now there is an emote. I actually uploaded the Concede logo. And hey, while I have you all here, listeners, we need 4 more emotes for the channel. So, shoot us an email, coinconcede@gmail.com, or DM me. If you have a Concede related emote that you'd like to draw and submit for us, we'll pick the coolest 4 ones, and those people will get an item of merch from the Concede shop on us in exchange for your emote being featured on our channel. So yeah, hit us up. You can DM me on Discord or Twitter, or you can email the show. And also big thanks to everyone that's left us a review so far. We'll read those out in the bonus episode. All right, I want to start. Edelweiss, what'd you do today? And yesterday, and this week.
Driving. So much driving. So for those who don't know, Racy was kind of like my coach when I first got into Hearthstone. And I actually started with the Well Met podcast when I started listening to Hearthstone podcasts and supported them in order to get coaching from him. We've become pretty good friends over the years, and he's getting a heart transplant soon, so I wanted to make sure that I could see him before that, just in case. And the only window I had to do it was in between working on Tuesday and working on Friday. So I got up Wednesday morning to drive from Philadelphia to New Hampshire. And then I came back today, Thursday. I left around 11:30 a.m. And yeah, probably the most driving I've ever done in 2 days because I hate driving. I'm kind of the opinion that humans were never meant to drive, and I sort of wish we had developed AI before automobiles so that we could have just started with self-driving cars. Would have been a lot easier to program because they wouldn't have to account for irrational human behavior.
But we wouldn't know how to drive, so you would just have to make it up.
I guess that's true, but at least you wouldn't have to try and program AIs to drive based on to try and account for humans, which is the hardest hurdle I think for self-driving cars right now.
I think they should have put we should have put energy into teleporters. I think teleporters would be the way to go.
That would be dope. That would be optimal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would be all for that. I think that's a little bit further away, but
I think you're right. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Elon's going to work on that with Jeff Bezos on the moon.
Nah, I think the farthest he's gone with his pneumatic tube from Pittsburgh to Philly or something.
Anyways.
Teleporter. But anyway, I hate driving, but I did it. It was a lot, and it was totally worth it. I don't think there are very few things that would have motivated me to do that much driving in so little a time. But I got to see Ray. We hooked up with Danny Donuts and went to like a board game cafe, played some Dominion. There was some unfortunate news that then hit, and we sort of went back to chill out and take that in from someone from the Pokemon community. But yeah, I'm just glad I got to see him and spend some time with him. And there was, like, had I not gone, I probably would have done the GoFundMe that Panda Global was doing for his heart. They were having like streamers help promote the GoFundMe, and it got funded, so that'll help a ton for his new heart that he's getting next week. So wishing him the best, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Also wishing him the best, Ray. I did donate to that GoFundMe, just to, show my support. Ray's been around for a long time. He's a cool dude. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to him again after next week.
Oh, also today, Thursday, June 10th, is his birthday. So that was kind of fun timing as well.
Happy birthday, Ray. Yeah. Have you been playing any video games?
So prior to all this, and I mean, we're Hearthstone players. We played some while I was there. Been working on a control shaman, and it's been super fun. I think I totally underestimated Perpetual Flame. I did not know quite the capacity that it has to clear sticky boards. It's like way more capable than I thought, and sometimes it legit is worth skipping your next turn just to clear a board. And there's just so many cool interactions that you can do in Shaman now. But we'll get to more of that later. Yeah,
our entire Decksplanations is Shaman talk, so prepare yourselves, listeners. A lot of Shaman talk. All right. Botticus, how about you? What you been up to, buddy?
Kind of a little bit of everything. Played a bit of the Evolved Shaman, like a couple games, and it didn't feel the same, so didn't really last too long playing that deck. But it seemed like Aggro Shaman or Doomhammer Shaman or whatever you want to call it, had a pretty good win rate and kind of came out from, maybe not out of nowhere, but popped up on the scene and was very popular and very good. So played a bit of that, and it felt very good, but also did not feel like my kind of play style. So mostly been messing around with like some Death Rattle Demon Hunter, and that doesn't feel better enough to warrant playing it. It's definitely better than it was before, but I don't know that it's better enough that I want to continue to play it a lot. I would think that
Fell Rattler
that
is better enough. Fell Rattler is nuts. That card's really, really good. The Rusher Swiper.
I was literally about to say the exact opposite opinion of that.
You don't
literally
like
the opposite. That card has been almost not dead. It's like it's mostly been a 3-2 with Rush every time I've played it. Basically every single time I've played it. Huh?
You haven't been facing many face hunters, have you?
It's really good against the 3-4 on turn 4. And really good
not
against
a ton.
Wolpersinger and
I think
Initiate.
if Paladin was still really popular, it'd be quite good. Because there were a lot of 3-4s in Paladin and a lot of reasons to like do 1 damage to things. But it's just felt kind of medium to me. Not bad. Like the deck's still fine. It just like it's still worth playing. I just don't know that it doesn't feel like it got significantly upgraded. It feels like it just got kind of upgraded. So, but I mean, like I also haven't invested like tons of time into it.
Yeah. Well, and
also played a bit of BGs. BGs is good.
How's that going? Yeah, the new the new heroes and also some of the new units that Hex Ruin dude, the 6 minion dude, he's good. That's a good card.
Yeah, I said he was going to be good.
You're right.
Yeah. probably not, and probably not even good, just good in demons. He's just a good dude. Helps you power. Still feels like we're kind of in a power leveling meta. The only thing I'm trying to figure out, I think the only real problem I have right now with Battlegrounds is that it feels like a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but it feels like there is a significant enough portion of games where all of a sudden you just run into somebody who does 30 damage to you.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. And I don't know what you can do there, because I think that happens in basically every game. It just happens to a different person. It doesn't always happen to you. And sometimes I'll be in these situations where all of a sudden I'm in third place and my composition is not very good, but it's just other people ran into the people who high rolled really hard and just died. And I don't know how you fix that, or if you need to fix that. I don't know that you need to fix that. It just feels weird. Very often, like it's it feels very, very rare to high roll really hard and get 2 triples, and all of a sudden you have like 2 tier 5 minions and 2 tier 6 minions on your board randomly. And like, but I go against those people once every 5 or 6 matches, and I don't know, it's just kind of a weird spot. And maybe it's because I'm not playing optimally or something, but it's just kind of, I've noticed I noticed a trend, and I'm trying to figure it out. I haven't invested as much time into Battlegrounds as I once did, but yeah, just trying to figure it out, I guess.
Well,
Sitting around 7100, so I'm not like low rated, not super high rated, just kind of doing okay.
It's Crip complains about this a lot. Like, this is the number one complaint Crip has, and part of this is a function of the devs wanting the game length to be a little tighter. Like, they want to make sure that things go faster, and that means the damage has to come from somewhere. But it does feel fairly swingy. I don't play a lot of BGs right now. I just don't have the time. And it's not a mode that calls to me the same way that it calls to you. At least not these days. When Dark Moon prizes were in, I was jamming, but now I'm not jamming. And since they pivoted really around elementals of the way to win BGs is to make your entire board big at once, and then stuff stopped trading. Like when you bump boards and all of their stuff lives and all of your stuff dies, then you take 30 instead of taking 10, the way it used to be when it was, Divine Shield mechs with death rattles and the tokens would spawn and kill you or whatever, or beasts. So I assume that the game length is intended, and the byproduct of that is that sometimes you just fall over, and that, the swinginess, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it seems to be at least part of how they're designing right now. I wouldn't be surprised that changes over time to some degree, but I don't know how they fix it either. BG's feels like it's a lot harder to design than constructed because it's a newer genre, and all the pieces work together in such a complex way. It's a really difficult genre to even comprehend, let alone design.
Yeah, I find it still super enjoyable, but I wonder if there's a way to reel back the power levels so that it feels more realistic to... I kind of miss the days of staying on Tavern Tier 3 and 4 instead of blowing right past them and trying to get to 5 and 6 as fast as possible. I think having the meta where you can... having it be more rewarding to be slow sometimes, I think, is reasonable.
Yeah. But then, if it's rewarding to be slow... you mean like... Gosh, play for tempo. Play for tempo.
Yeah, it doesn't... Right now, it doesn't feel risky enough to power level to 5 and 6.
Yeah, so they need to make threes
I
better.
want it to just be more risky. I want it to be possible, but more risky, and it seems like every lobby, at least one person is able to do that, and the person who does that and doesn't die usually wins.
And that was kind of the role in original BGs of demons, and to a lesser extent mechs not a lesser extent so much that original mechs, if you hit Cobalt into Rover into Junkbot, you just killed people. But that wasn't necessarily the most healthy either. It just
you
happened
also
faster.
just stay on Tavern Tier 4 with mechs the entire time. There was no reason to go past Tavern Tier 4.
Yeah. Anyways, thinking back a while. But yeah, BG's is... I do agree that it's fun right now. The new heroes they've added are pretty cool, though they're going to have to nerf Guff. He's really good.
I feel like I'm curious to try the new BG's heroes. But like I mostly play BG's because I'm too lazy to go into another platform. But like seeing friends and hearing them talk about teamfight tactics, I think I actually would enjoy that more because I like the extra like positioning and tribes and everything that
And
that
item
go into
building.
that. And
Yeah.
item building, yeah.
I hear TFT is a fun game. I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
That's fair enough.
Where have I been?
Have they come out with a tutorial for it yet?
Probably
For
not.
TFT, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I tried playing like 2 games and it
peop-
wasn't gonna. Yeah.
The people who made original auto chess did add a tutorial, but even that didn't explain the whole. I think because it's kind of a little bit tricky to do so and to like weave in, didn't explain the whole. Hey, if you save up your gold, you get income for every 10 up to having 50. So
Yeah.
long term, it's a good idea to like get to 50 gold and then like sort of keep that in your bank so that you're gaining interest. Like the eco part just was not explained at all.
It's hard to differentiate a tutorial between this is how this thing works and this is what you should do. And that is
Mhm.
something that auto battlers in general have not figured out because they're such complex games. Anyways, speaking of Riot games, okay. So where have I been this week? I feel like it's been a month in a week. So hit Legend 2 days ago with Base Stink Shaman, which we'll talk about. It's hybrid Elemental and Doomhammer. It does both. You don't have to choose. And also over the past couple weeks, I've been playing more Legends of Runeterra. So I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago, or last week. My buddy Bassoon Buffoon recommended, hey, play Aurelia Azir, which is kind of this funky combo aggro deck. I liked it okay, but then I like the version of the deck that cuts all the combo cards and adds burn, and hits people in the face, obviously, as you do. But stop playing Constructed. However, their Lab of Legends mode, which is their roguelike, not quite dungeon run, not quite duels, whatever, is super duper great. Really, really awesome. And it's totally free. And like they have a bunch of champions that you choose, and then you get a second champion after each round. And each round you get either a passive or you get items for your cards. Like for a specific card, every copy of it gets an item upgrade, and then it gives you an extra copy of that card. So I ended up with a 7 mana card in the run I was doing today that deals 3 to one target, 2 to another target, and 1 to another target. Right? True Shot Barrage for those that play. It's normally a 7 mana card. I upgraded it so it only costs 3. I upgraded it so I got 3 free mana to cast spells every turn. And I upgraded it so that it copied itself to hit the same targets twice every time I cast it.
Oh no.
And so you build this super powerful feeling deck in 9 rounds with individual champions that have different playstyles. Super rad. Can't recommend enough. Single player. No timer. Reconnect to the game if you get disconnected. Big, big fan. Also been playing a lot of Hearthstone, the game that we talk about on this show. Mostly Shaman and Rogue. Been trying a little bit of Wild, just because, I hit Legend and Standard, and I want to see what's going on over there. And so I took an Odd Demon Hunter list that is, I think, 24 1-drops. An Acrobatics, 2 Stilt Steppers, 2 Fell Rattlers. No, 23 1-drops. Acrobatics, 2 Stilt Steppers, 2 Fell Rattlers, 2 Dreadlord's Bites, and 1 Baku. And that's it. And the rest is all 1-drops. And that's been fun, because I'm only at 575 in my Demon Hunter, and I want to get to 1,000. So, play 1-drops, hit Warlocks, That's what you do. And then also went away over the last weekend for a wedding, because travel exists again, and being around people is strange. I like it, I think. but it's weird. A lot less
Yeah.
social stamina than I had before. But because you didn't like being around people before. You did. You can talk.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I don't. I didn't like being around people before.
Yeah.
My life has changed very little since the pandemic, but I understand that other people are social and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, it was super weird, like hanging out with Ray and Danny, and like I'm fine with the small group of people, right? We could have had one more person, and that would have been good. But I think what was weird was just being in spaces that also had other people.
And
being
you
at
know,
a board game cafe.
we've conditioned ourselves over the past year and a half that being around other people is dangerous, and so the survival instincts kick in, and then you have to untrain those, and it's difficult. Plus, a year and a half of digital-only interactions where we frequently multitask because of who we are as human beings, where there's a Twitch screen over there, Twitter over there, Discord over here, whatever. My brain has switched from buying full-price games to microtransactions for socialization. So instead of a full, like, when you sit down with someone for dinner and you talk to them the whole time, you're doing one thing. No, microtransactions. I'm used to, like, each individual conversation is like the $1 purchase or buy one pack and then one more over here and all that. Trying to stay in one path and keep consistent focus is so difficult.
And I found myself not quite knowing what rules I should be following. It's sort of like you go into a place with your mask on and then you look around and you're like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I
mean,
guess I'll
if you're
take this
there to
off.
eat, you're not going to eat with your mask on. Who are you, Bane?
Yeah, but I have seen some businesses that say, unless you are like in the process of eating, keep your mask on. And
I'd assume they haven't
obviously-
updated their signs yet. That would be my assumption.
I mean, not on this trip, I didn't see that, but like at some places in Philly, I've seen that, and it's sort of like it varies from business to business what their policies are. So I sort of always walk in with a mask and just look around, see like, okay, what's the tone here? What am I supposed to do or not supposed to do?
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, if you're in a place where food is not being consumed, then keep your mask on.
Yeah.
Why not? But yeah, it's just this strange sort of feeling out the room. It's funny that you mentioned the survival instincts. I kind of throughout COVID, it sort of just felt like one massive game of HVZ. If anyone played that in college, when I was at Case, we did HVZ for 10 days. HVZ stands for Humans vs. Zombies, and I got really into it, and it was the same. Like, obviously, we're not shooting people with Nerf guns, but it was the same kind of thing of you just stayed away from people, like everyone. You sort of inherently did that distancing because you didn't want to get jumped. So I feel like I tapped into that paranoia when we entered COVID.
I am reading about what HVZ is while you're talking, and this is fascinating.
It was great. We had a group called the Big Games Club on campus, and I think our 10 days was like longer than a lot of campuses did for HVZ. It was just anytime you were not inside a school building, it was like it was game
You were
time.
in character, right?
It was open season. Yeah. So you still have to walk into the classrooms and stuff with like your bandana on your forehead if you were a zombie, or your arm if you were a human. People have Nerf guns or balled up socks depending on their playstyle preference. I had a semi-automatic Nerf gun that I modified with like super batteries, so for better rate of fire and range and accuracy.
Getting a better insight into your college career now.
It was great. People totally underestimated the ability of that Nerf gun. But yeah, it was not particularly healthy the way that I lived for those 10 days. Where you just like you avoid going outside unless you absolutely have to, and like just like stay away from people anytime you're outdoors. It was, but it was a good workout sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
Lots of
running from
sprinting.
zombies. Yeah. Well, I didn't play any HVZ when I was in college, so I didn't have these
It probably wasn't created back then. Yeah.
because I'm old. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Well,
You're not. I didn't say you were wrong. I'm just confirming that's what you're saying. Anyways, video games, travel, work. Summer's here. I don't know. Let's talk about Hearthstone. We got some news. In fact, Boticus took a survey right before we started recording. I think we should talk about it. Let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right. So, kind of the big news of the week is that there was a survey that went out to people that had some information regarding Mercenaries that wasn't quite out yet. And just before the show, I actually checked my email and I had this survey in there and decided to take it. And it was a pretty interesting survey. So the first questions were kind of getting to know what I know about gaming in general, kind of just like how widespread my knowledge is about various games. So they asked me questions about like, are you familiar with this game? Have you played this game? For a lot of Blizzard titles and a lot of non-Blizzard titles, like popular things like Clash of Clans and I think they asked like a League of Legends, like other well-known and maybe even some lesser-known games. And then they asked a few questions about Hearthstone, one of which, well, Edelweiss is gone, so I'll come back to that question later. But just kind of asking about my knowledge of Hearthstone and how much I've done with Hearthstone. And it was kind of interesting. They had like a description. They had you read a description, or they told you to read a description of like Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
Like you clarified, because you totally
course,
didn't read it.
No, they just made me wait 20 seconds to click continue and then continue. continue. And they, so like before they asked the Battlegrounds questions, they asked if I had ever played it before. And then they tried to sell me on Battlegrounds after, even though I said I played it a bunch before, which was a weird sequence of questions. But then they asked about Mercenaries, and they also asked me to read a similar thing that was describing Mercenaries, of which, of course, I didn't read at all. And then asked how likely I was to play it, and of course, I'm very likely to play it. So, and
While
so
I have you
mostly
here,
positive to that.
I know you didn't read this description. I would like to read it for the listeners, and then you can hear it and be aware of it for the first time, even though it was
That'd be great
in front of you. All right. So, and there are some pictures too. We have links in the show notes to the Out of Cards article with all the recap pictures. But the description: master an all-new challenge in Hearthstone's single-player competitive roguelike game mode, Mercenaries. Build and customize your dream team of iconic Warcraft characters to take into battle, vanquish foes, and collect bounties. Use your earnings to customize, upgrade, and equip your team with the abilities and treasures needed to jump back into battle and storm through ever-changing maps or other players. As your mercenaries progress, so too will their opponents, so keep your strategies at the forefront as you tackle this all-new combat system. Which of your mercenaries will earn their glory? Additional details: deck-free battles. Say goodbye to building and balancing 30-card decks. Instead, choose which 6 mercenaries you think have what it takes to team up and take home the bounty. Collect, experiments, and conquer. Put countless squad combinations and strategies to the test with more than 50 mercenaries to collect at launch, each with unique abilities to bring to battle. Continue to grow your roster with new game-changing mercenaries dropping monthly. And pause here for a second. 6 mercenaries in a team, and there are a bunch to collect, so you gotta collect them all. You noticing a theme here? Team of mercenaries that have abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that maybe these mercenaries want to be the very best, like no one ever was. For those unfamiliar at home, that is it's the Pokemon theme song.
Oh, works for me.
So we'll keep going. Innovative combat. Deal damage with a twist. As you and your opponent queue abilities and select targets, then sit back and watch the fight unfold. Pay close attention to the order of your abilities to get the most damage out of each move. I think that means no RNG. I think that's what that means. Align, and your team will shine. Battles only get more heated with the introduction of alignments, giving on-the-spot bonus damage based on which mercenaries take to the board. So we'd say that maybe some mercenaries are super effective against others, for an example. Play your way. Fight through evolving maps and bosses at your own pace, or go head-to-head with other players. How you play and progress is entirely up to you. Replay all day, randomized maps, and seemingly endless team treasure and ability combinations make for a unique experience with every battle. Expand your village. Put down your roots in your mercenaries' gathering grounds. Your village will start small, but as your squadron grows, so too will your village. Maybe you can build a gym or something. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Yeah. This is Pokemon.
Also kind of sounds like Summoner's War.
I believe you. I don't know what that is.
I just remember you had to like have a little town where you upgrade stuff.
Yeah.
And then you had things to collect.
Still feel like it's kind of like Darkest Dungeon.
Could be. Probably less like punishing and depressing, if I had to guess.
Well, okay, yes, not like in that sense. It is not gothic horror. It's not,
They have the old gods, I don't know. They could do crossover. They could do it. Listen, they're doing all kinds of crossovers out there these days.
In terms of doing like sortie missions, and you go into a thing that has its own little map, and then you complete that, and then you go back to a base, and you can maybe upgrade the base. I don't know. Seems similar to me.
Yeah.
The
comparison I've heard a lot also is Fire Emblem Heroes.
So somebody in chat said this sounds like it might cost some money, maybe a lot of money. Hat responds, nah. However, one of the questions I did get, they had a sequence of questions that was, this would make me more likely to play Mercenaries, this would make me less likely to play Mercenaries. And one that appeared multiple times is, this game is described as a gacha game.
That sounds Fire Emblem Heroes to me.
It was very much sounds like that might be part of this new mode, is that it's very gacha like.
So rolling to get certain heroes over others.
And yeah, if you're collecting a bunch of heroes, that sounds gacha-esque.
Here's a question I have. Is Hearthstone a gacha game?
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes.
Technically, yes.
Card games are gacha games. You just take the loot boxes and you call them packs. And then we're like, no, those were printed on real digital paper. It's got it,
But the odds are significantly better. And you can craft what you want if you miss.
I mean, that might be the case with this too. I'm just saying that
it could be, right? Maybe that's a way that they make it less severe. But I remember hitting a point with Fire Emblem Three Houses where it was sort of like
Three Houses or Heroes?
Fire Emblem Heroes, where like if there's a character you really want, there is no crafting if you get X amount of characters you don't want. It's just like it's the point whatever percentage, really freaking low percentage for some of the best heroes. And so you just had to make a certain amount of investment so that you could pick them up. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this game. And it's a system that I would hope that if they're going to do, like if they're doing gacha, that they have some kind of thing to make up for low percentages of getting the best mercenaries. But I suppose we'll see.
I would simply say it is entirely possible they messed this up, right? Like that is absolutely, they have very clearly made economic mistakes in the past. They have also fixed economic mistakes in the past. On the one hand, you can make the argument that their previous mistakes were so dramatically negative that they have to make sure they don't happen again. On the other hand, you can make the argument that if they made the mistake in the past, that means they didn't know how to make it not happen. They didn't know how to make a good thing happen, and they needed to do the wrong thing first. And they could very well do that again, right? Because they should have known better than they didn't. I'd like to think that after the backlash from the original rewards track, there's no way they want to go through that again within the same year, within the same 12 months, and they would go really far out of their way to make sure that doesn't happen. But it's also very clearly a different game genre that I don't think is targeted people that are currently playing Hearthstone necessarily as its primary focus. And if this is an economy that people are used to from another game, and it's close enough to current Hearthstone, then I think you could probably get away with something that's meant to be a little bit more microtransaction-y.
I guess I'm just sort of surprised that this would still be put in the Hearthstone modes button, because it feels divergent enough that it may actually do better if it was not on the Hearthstone platform.
Well, they're doing that main menu redesign of the front page.
Yes, but it's still the Hearthstone app, right?
That's the point. That's what they want.
Well, I know, and I'm questioning whether that's the right decision, because it's one thing having Hearthstone and BGs in the same thing. It's still all sort of Hearthstone-y in a way, but I'm wondering, like, Gacha feels like a level of magnitude different. Hearthstone and BGs, you know, if they monetize BGs with cosmetics, it's still similar to having portraits and things for standard Hearthstone and card backs, etc. But Gacha is going to feel, even if it is like opening card packs, it's going to feel fundamentally different for some people, because card packs, you still have the legendary 1 in every 40 packs, and traditionally Gacha has way worse odds than that. The like 5-star characters or whatever are usually like under 1%.
Yeah.
And or like sometimes 0.5%. So I almost wonder if at that point you would attract more people just by marketing it as that kind of game in its own app. Because otherwise people look at Hearthstone in the App Store and they see a thing that they've seen before, card game, and they don't realize that it has this other thing inside it. It seems like it could be a marketing challenge.
Maybe. It's not holding them back right now with BGs, but Mercenaries, it appears to be about as different as a thing could get and still be within the Hearthstone world. We have to see, right? We're still looking at a survey. We're still looking at a single screenshot. It's hard to say what's going to happen. A lot of variables here. And the concern I would have is if this game mode turns out to be on the expensive / microtransaction / full-scale gacha scale, they will not hear the end of it for a while, if ever. Like, it will not reflect well on them, especially after the rewards track situation. My hope is that they know that and they're anticipating it and hopefully making a version of the gameplay that we all like that is less predatory. But also, maybe they aren't. I don't know. We don't know. We have seen so little of it. And people still think it's a deck builder. People still think this is Slay the Spire. And it's really not. So, I am very much looking forward to the first trailer. And I really want to play it. But for now, we just have the Boticus connection.
Sure. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting that was one of the questions they asked, if it would be beneficial for them to market it as a gacha game, which I mostly answered no, that would not make me more likely to try it, but whatever they're going to do is what they're going to do. They did also ask me a question that I thought would be interesting to ask both of you. They asked me, how many hours have you played Hearthstone?
Oh gosh.
And so I thought about it. I looked up how many days is 1,000 hours. 1,000 hours is 41 or so days, 41, 44, something like that. So I very conservatively estimated 1,500 hours for me. I think that is way too conservative. It could be upwards of double that. I would guess,
We're
but
saying
I'm
all
interested.
time.
Yeah.
They asked it as all time, not like a how
Yeah.
much per week, which is
I'm pretty sure it was lifetime hours.
because that's so hard to calculate, right? How much per week is a way easier thing to guesstimate.
Okay.
Otherwise, I answered 1,500 hours a week, which is very difficult to do.
Like, I don't think so.
So, unfortunately, for better or worse, I have an answer for this.
You have an equation, or
No. So, I like upgrading my computer a lot. I really like upgrading my computer a lot. But when I upgrade it, I don't want to lose all my stuff, so I copy my app data over each time. So, I have my Hearthstone deck tracker history back to 2015. And so every game I have played on this computer, or my main desktop computer, for 6 years, I have the history documented.
So that doesn't include mobile.
Does not include mobile, does not include iPad, does not include laptop. It's still just about 22,000 games or so. Just about, which comes out to 2,170 hours. The class that I played the most with is Rogue. Class that I played the least with is Demon Hunter, but that doesn't count. And after Demon Hunter, it is Paladin. My overall win rate is 12,169 wins, 9,439 losses. My average game length, 6 minutes. So yeah. That's a lot of games. So yeah, 2,170 hours.
And that's
90
just PC.
days.
That doesn't include cell phone.
Yeah, no mobiles included, no laptop included.
I'm fairly certain you've definitely played more than I have, because I believe you've had less breaks than I have.
Well, but remember also, this doesn't include Battlegrounds.
Oh. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I remember.
Yeah.
So I remember a while ago, a long time ago, when I was still playing World of Warcraft way too much. I remember I played for 4 years, and in those 4 years, I had 100 days played time. So I remember I was averaging 6.5 to 8 hours a day without a single day off. So I figured with Hearthstone, I definitely didn't play as much as I did World of Warcraft, but also I probably played for more than 4 years of Hearthstone. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually closer to 20 or 3,000, maybe upwards of 4,000 hours of Hearthstone.
So I have no great sense of doing a time estimate. All I have is the stuff that you can look at through achievements and etc. I was comparing with Ray, and I was like, yeah, I play a lot compared to some of our listeners, but I still play less than the average, pro or etc. And he was like, oh, I wonder how much I have. And the achievement, Great Victory, at stage 9 is win 20,000 games in ranked arena or duels. He has that. I do not. For me, it says 19,326. So, got another 600 or so, between 600 and 700 games to win. But that's because I started on arena, and I have done some amount of duels. Ray didn't really do that, so he got a pretty close estimate with his ranked total wins, which was 26,000.
Good lord.
And I was like, man, maybe I think I have played less than you, but also my win rate is probably worse. I have 16,447 total ranked wins.
So he's got your number plus 10,000.
Yeah. He was like, that's not
a lot.
that much less. And I'm like, Ray, that's so much less.
That is multiple players' full Hearthstone careers. Yeah.
I do have more mage wins than him though. That's the only thing.
Well, Bodigus, thank
I
you for
play a
making
lot
us
of
look
damage.
at this. This has been really
I just
been a
checked,
journey.
by the way. Just Battlegrounds, which has only been out for what, a year and a half?
Almost 2 years now, yeah.
Almost 2 years. I have 322 hours in purely Battlegrounds. So if that's only been out for 2 years, and that doesn't include Constructed, yeah, probably considerably over 1,500. Which 1,500, I'm sure to them, when they see that statistic, is probably just like...
It's
Like, if you look at the chart, I probably rank slightly differently than the majority of players on that chart of answering that question.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So yeah, it asked me a bunch of those questions about just like what would make me more likely to play Mercenaries, what would make me less likely to play Mercenaries, and then the last sequence of questions was related to like celebrities they would like to see promote the game, and they listed a bunch of celebrities that I have no idea who they are. But I believe the top of my list that I would like to see promote the game would be Matt Mercer.
You had asked a lot of
Because
people.
he's pretty great.
Including Mr. T.
Mr. T. He was on my list of people I would like to see promote the game because he also promoted World of Warcraft, and that was like a legendary meme as well as promotion for the game.
Yeah. But yeah, Matt Mercer would obviously be awesome. Critical Role would obviously
also
be...
Crip.
Yeah.
Crip would also be good.
Crip as an Aryan? Criparian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, that was mostly the survey. There's just a ton of interesting... it was... I found it more interesting the way they asked the questions than I was interested about the content of it, but I'm taking the survey for them, so... Who knows what they get out of that kind of survey, and who knows who actually, like, I'm wondering who all got the survey, like what kind of people got the survey. It was also
I'm guessing
a long
they're going
survey.
for a pretty wide variety. Like they definitely want people that are at different levels of engagement.
Right.
All right.
All right, so next for the rest of the news, we have a new global battle net, including a global friend list. So unfortunately, I should have taken the time to read this article, but I did not have much of a chance to. Were you able to kind of see exactly what this article's about?
So you see all of your friends from all regions in your friends list and all when you're logged in now, including in the client, in Hearthstone, and in BNet. And they're working towards, in some games, you're going to have cross-region play. Overwatch talked about it. I don't know if Hearthstone's going to get that. But now if you log in, if you have friends in multiple regions, like I was watching No Hand stream last night, he has 360 friends now because it just merges them all together. But there's still the 200 per region limit. So he wanted to add some friends, and he deleted some people, and then he deleted them from the Asia account, and then he had to add people in Americas. Like it's definitely a little funky, but they're moving towards a global BNet instead of regionalized servers.
Yeah, like if it does end up doing that for like Hearthstone ladder, that could get weird.
It could get weird.
There would be no reason to do it for the ladder, right?
I would assume they would probably do cross-region friends list challenges first. But the server lag is real, and APM requirements in Hearthstone are significant. Like you do need to get animations down.
And you could do cross-regional challenges and like tournaments that let people use their accounts from different regions without having to consolidate into a single ladder.
Yeah. I don't know what they would do. There are a bunch of different ways they can do it, because there are logistical challenges for people that spent the money to make other accounts and build separate accounts, and now, and Blister Guy talks about this all the time in Walk to Work about he, on the America servers, he lives in Australia, he has very real delays, and APM is challenging, and especially for BGs, and that's not something that just goes away. That latency doesn't just go away. So, I don't know what the plan is here long term, or if there is one for Hearthstone, but it seemed worth mentioning because merge friendlists are a little funky, and then there was an update to the BNet app as well, both on mobile and on desktop, and it looks a little different. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. And just a couple more small items here. So there were some new bundles added to the shop. And there's kind of a huge range of different things that have been available to people. So base and also different amounts that can get offered to you. So I guess they're trying out a bunch of different stuff, probably based on your spending or what they think they can sell to you based on your purchase history. So really what it comes down to is that there's 3 different bundles, or 3 different types of bundles, but different variety of numbers in those bundles. So you could either see a tavern special, which you would get legendary card or cards from Forged in the Barrens with Forged in the Barrens card packs. You could get the Bob's Bargain, which would be a legendary card from Year of the Phoenix with Year of the Phoenix packs, or Bob's Bargain Wild, which would be a legend card from any set and some newly introduced wild packs that have cards from Wild in them.
Not just like cards from Wild, the entirety of Wild only sets. They're all in these packs. Kind of funky. They do have the 10-pack pity timer as well. So if you have never opened them before, which they didn't exist before, so you probably haven't, if you get 10 of them, then you get a legendary. Can be from any Wild legal set. But this bundle wasn't available to everybody. So yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so I guess they've appeared in 10, 20, and 30 sets of cards, which I'm guessing the amount of legendaries offered is based on that as well. But yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how they're getting, well, I don't really care too much about what they're doing with the data, but I'm sure they're getting data and seeing what they can get people to buy, I guess.
Yeah. Which packs it's worth pushing. There was a lot of demand on my Twitter timeline from people that didn't get the Wild bundle that wanted to buy it, so I wouldn't be surprised if that had a much higher conversion rate. Maybe we see that in the store.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was offered the Wild one, but did not did not need it because I'm a hoarder. But I was offered the 40-pack Wild one and the 20-pack standard one.
Yeah.
I was offered 2 bundles that I do not remember what size they were or what sets they were from. As usual, Bodicus not paying attention to things.
Yeah. I got the 2 that weren't Wild, and I closed the store.
How did you ever take, like, tests? Like, standardized tests?
Oh, I was really good at taking tests.
Okay. Yeah, so you read if, like, you're forced to.
I'm good at memorizing information.
Did you... Okay, I guess here's the real question. When you took, like, a reading standardized test, did you read the story and then do the questions? Or did you look at the questions and then look for the answers in the story?
Yeah, the second part.
The second one? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're...
I have to go in order.
Oh, no.
So I always read everything to the fullest, and then
I don't care about learning information. I care
by
about getting
one
the right
down
answer.
the questions. I must go in order.
A study in 2 different gaming profiles, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Yeah, I could care less about learning something. I just care about being right.
I'm the person who would take that test where the last question is like ignore the first 9 questions and put down your pencil, and I would get to it last, and then would be like, oh god dang.
Yeah, see, I go question by question, and if I don't know the answer to the question, I skip it and go to the next question, and then I'll go back and try to figure out the answers to the questions I didn't know on the first read through, because it's easy to go through and just tick off all the information that you memorized, and then you get a higher score on the test because you got all that information, and then you can go back and see if you can kind of piece together the other ones, because sometimes even other questions that you know the answer to will help you figure out the answers to the questions that you didn't know on the first read through. That's why I was really good at math stuff and not great at like literary stuff, because I would miss important details.
Complete opposite. My ACT, I got like 28 in the math section and 35 in the reading.
So what's next for the news?
All right, so Lich King was temporarily disabled in Battlegrounds, but this post was from 3 days ago, and they said it should be back within 24 hours. So I assume that it's back.
Do you know what the bug was? It was bad.
It just says unforeseen issue.
No,
what was the issue?
The update here is that it took them 24 hours to disable it. It's not bad. He's going to be gone for a while. There was a bug where if you reborned a minion and then tripled it, the gold copy kept reborn permanently. It was incredibly broken.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty broken.
Yep.
I mean, Lich King was good enough without that, so...
Yeah, to suddenly give reborn to things that should not have reborn.
Yeah, like your Monstrous Macaw permanently having reborn and then hitting your Goldrun too. Seems okay. For example, I don't know. Just like throwing it out there as an example of a thing that was probably good.
Pretty gross.
Yeah. So they turned him off. He's gone. And just to close out the news section, this isn't really news, but we're not going to talk Wild at all, really, for the rest of the show. But Wild is kind of... Stealer of Souls has been... Stealer of Souls has been impactful. And the thing about Wild, about any large format, non-rotating format, stuff's going to break every time they make new cards because it's at the size where, like, it is a broken format. It's really powerful. And this deck is not necessarily a power level outlier, but it is a meta warping thing. We're not going to cover this better than State of Wild did. State of Wild, get Meowth, Corbett, and Raffle. Fantastic Wild personalities. Really know what's going on. Their immediately previous episode before this one had Ixar on it. Talking to him about Wild for over an hour. Strongly recommend checking it out if you're into Wild. It is unclear what is going to happen. The animations on Stealer of Souls are really unpleasant. The deck is very weak to burn damage and very strong against not that and feels Darkest Hour-esque. I'd be surprised if it was a power level outlier, but it is popular enough and warping enough and unfun enough to lose to that it reminds me of Tiller, which also was not a power level outlier, but was an experience outlier. They nerfed that. They'll probably nerf this. But it's beatable, but the format is... I'm not going to call the format more broken than usual because the format's always broken, but it is more visibly degenerate than normal.
I think the interesting conversation about this is not about whether it should be changed for Wild or not, but whether we should consider the possibility of banning something in Wild so that it can stay the same in Standard. Because this card is not, like, it's not completely ridiculous in Standard. We don't have a way of becoming immune.
It's not really completely ridiculous in Wild either. It's a combo deck that does things when it has 6 mana and draws well, but also the aggro decks in that format kill you on turn 5. I have, by turn 7 in that format, I have dealt 70 damage as a rogue. Right, like it's turn 3, they Oaken Summons out a 10 health minion, and I just kill it and kill them by turn 7. They alignment, and I draw Kingsbane, and they die. The format is it's broken. But Wild exists for every card to be legal. and it has to stay that way. That is the only reason the format exists from a business perspective, and so Standard can exist is this is the place you can go to play with your cards. So they could make a different format with the ban list where they curate it. Could absolutely do that. I don't think Wild, once you start taking any kind of card legality changes, the all appeal of the format is lost. Even just banning a single card.
Yeah. I guess I just think it would be a real shame to have, Stealer of Souls nerfed for Wild when it has not even really gotten a chance in Standard. Like, Dark Glare at least was doing things in both formats in a pretty, unhealthy way. It was more powerful in Wild, but it was also pretty powerful in Standard. Obviously, once Penflinger got changed, it wouldn't really have been an issue, but I think it's always going to be disappointing as a Standard player if something gets balanced for Wild and then you don't really ever get to see the full potential for Standard.
It doesn't happen very much, though. Dark Glare still saw Standard play after the change. Hysteria still saw Standard play after the change, even through a second nerf.
For sure.
And they won't change Stealer. They'll change Plot Twist, or they'll change the immune mechanic, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, you can either make Plot Twist cost 4 and it kill the deck, or you can make it so... Right now, there is a change to previous functionality where if you were immune, you can pay more health than you have. It counts as doing damage to your hero, not paying life. If you make it instead where if you were immune, you still have to have X life to pay the cost, that is a much more subtle nerf and a change to a game mechanic that they could do. But also, if they want to nerf it, they'll just nerf Plot Twist. Because that's a Wild-only card that is not seeing a ton of play, and there might be some small collateral damage there, but it's not going to be the same as a brand new Standard card they just released. So, there are options.
I will say, I played this deck a couple times, and it felt like playing the first iteration of Shutterwalk, except that the timing mattered for me.
Yes.
So, and that did not feel great because I missed killing my opponent by 1 card. Then I played against a bunch of secret mages. That matchup actually seemed pretty interesting. It was kind of fun to try to play around all of their secrets. But yeah, the animation thing makes that deck kind of annoying. But also, yeah, hopefully they just change it or something, because it was I don't know, it definitely doesn't have the best feeling to play with or against.
There are a lot of negative externalities with the way the combo functions and the way the animations function that are not really fixable. So they'll change it based on power level, they'll change it not based on power level, based on these other things. But it's, the format has changed based on the release of new cards, which is what's supposed to happen, but it is the kind of combo that I don't think they really want to happen, and so I expect some kind of nudge here. But it's also worth noting, this is we don't want to have revisionist history, and remember here that Tiller was not a tier 0 deck that was super broken, and this is not a tier 0 deck that's super broken. It's just it's a bigger visible example of Wild's longer term issues. This is going to keep happening. There is no way for a non-rotating format to get less powerful over time.
Yeah, particularly when it comes to combo.
And aggro. Right, it's the things where you either get interactions of some sort that wouldn't exist in a smaller card pool, or be curated in a smaller card pool, or you get significant redundancy at low cost, which is what's happening with aggro. Like I said, the Demon Hunter deck I'm playing, 23 1-drops, 6 3s, and Baku. Leroy, not good enough. So, what you're going to do. Alright. Well, let's talk about tournaments, because we finished Grandmasters. We've got a little bit of qualifier information, and then we're going to talk the rest of the show about Shaman. So let's go.
It's the Grand Tournament!
Alright, so, Grandmasters Season 1 is concluded. Nalgadon over Rami in the Finals of Americas. Latin America is OP. Rami, you're the best. Well done, friend, making it to the finals. Remember, last season, Rami barely avoided relegation and said that he knew that he wasn't as smart as the other players. And I said, Rami, that's hogwash. That is garbage. That is mierda. And now he was in the finals and lost only to Nalgadon. It's a pretty good person to lose to, I think, but he'll just win the next one. Possessi over Blitzchung in Asia Pacific. Frenetic over Blyze in EU. We'll talk about Blyze in a second, by the way. There were some relegations, of course. America's only had 3 because of Just Saying's retirement and Zalay being suspended. Tincho, Briarthorn, and Impact were out in the Americas. Lambie Series, High 3, Tom, 60229, and Tyler in Asia Pacific. Bunny Hopper, Swids, A-Rock, and Zim for EU. Be aware that Lambie Series is the number 2 current points leader in Asia Pacific. Almost certainly just going to get promoted right back in. Pretty likely. So, Blyze. And I'm, Edelweiss, I hope you're ready for esports opinions. I think this is something we can all talk about. So, did y'all see what Blyze did? Y'all see what happened? Y'all hear about it?
I did. Saw it
Bodikus,
live.
did you hear about it? Blyze was, I believe he was down 0-2 in the finals. Had some poor draws. And then instead of conceding his last game, decided to close the client. On camera. Yeah, you did hear about this, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember now.
So, I understand. Match is high pressure. I understand. He's young. I understand it meant a lot to him, and he took the loss really hard. Kinda on camera. And kinda you can press the escape button and the red button and then just be done. Yeah, I don't know. And Blyze has tweeted afterwards, as people are known to do. His first tweet after was, I want to die, which was, dramatic, but again, young, meant a lot to him, whatever. And he, the social media mob is not known for nuance or patience and was not necessarily very kind to him. And also his response to one of those tweets was that, let me read it here. Oh, it's not even in here. I'm sorry for being upset after losing the most important match of my life. Should be noting that Blyze won 2 Masters tours, so I understand he wanted to go to Worlds, but I don't know. Maybe this is the first big loss taken in the finals in camera. But either way, curious to hear y'all's perspectives.
Do you want to go first?
I mean, while I am somewhat sympathetic to his feelings and can understand a situation where something like that would happen, I also have to say that, it's not really the response you want to have from a, I understand that he cares a ton about it, but I don't know what to say. You can't have a response like that for when you're. I mean, we've kind of called them like employees in a sense before. They're putting on a show for the for Hearthstone, and that's not really the message we want people to see from our highest end competitors, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And as someone who did, little league sports growing up, you do the thing where both teams line up and you high five the opposing team or whatever.
Good game. You
Yeah,
go down
good
the
game,
line.
good game. I've always had this feeling when it comes to like, the opinions people have on if you win, should you say good game to your opponent in the chat? And obviously it's sort of, if you come from my background of little league sports, it's like, well, yeah, that's just like what you say, whether it was a good game or not, no matter how much of a blowout or what, like that's part of the sportsmanship. But I think not everyone has that experience. And we do a thing with athletes in general, but also in esports, where we kind of put them in this position where they are expected to behave in certain social ways, and we sort of have these things of how they're supposed to behave, but it's kind of unsaid most of the time. There's no like hard and fast rules, and at the same, like we've mentioned, is very young, and I think the younger you are, the more dramatic these situations feel. I know, talking to just like anyone who's in college going through something, it feels like the hardest thing they've done, depending on like what they really care about at that point in their life. And it takes some aging to really gain the maturity to be able to like calm yourself down and be like, okay, just need to like do this thing, do the right thing to get past that public facing portion, and then go if let out your anger in private or cry in private or whatever you need to do as that sort of closure outlet when you're disappointed after a thing. Yeah, there was recently a conversation about and it's slightly different, but I feel like it relates. There was a tennis professional who she in advance said she wasn't going to do a player interview after a tennis match, because for her mental health, and there are rules that you'll get fined. And she was like, I know I'll be fined, but this is for my mental health. I hope that they use that fine to go towards helping people with their mental health in sports. And there was a big sort of debate around that as well. And my biggest takeaway is that people end up in these positions. They play the game or play the sport, whatever, but they're introverted, and like the social skills are different, and we just expect people to have them based on what we consider a norm. But it's not like it's not like we're sitting people down beforehand necessarily and saying, hey, these are the social expectations, the way that you do for like a little league, to say this is what sportsmanship means. And I think that's part of why we end up with these debates, because sportsmanship means something different to different people, and people have outlets in different ways.
This is something, Ludwig, right? The streamer Ludwig, you both do. I assume everybody does.
Yeah.
He was a Smash Melee commentator. When the Smash universe imploded, he had a very, very cogent and very insightful comment on the people that we hold in high regard. He said, they are just good at playing the video game. They don't have to be good people. They often aren't. And they get elevated for their visibility and skill at the video game in a community into leadership roles that they are not really ready for. And putting a teenager on the stage means sometimes they will do things. Was this in bad taste? Sure, it wasn't the best decision. Was it a big deal? No. He was immature. It looked immature because it was immature. Happens. Kid's going to be immature sometimes. Should he have made a different decision? Sure. I also have many decisions that I have made in my life, especially at around my teenage years. In retrospect, not the best choices. So, is what it is. I liked what Dan O'Play said about it on Twitter, host of the Squelch podcast, of, I can't imagine being mad about this, but I can't imagine not joking about it. I think that's a good place to land. That's kind of where I land. So anyways, Also, note on Blaz, remember how he got docked 2 points a couple weeks back during the win trading controversy, even though they said there was no win trading? They published the ruling. They had him lose his money and his points, misinforming the player manager about internet issues when in reality the player had overslept for their match. He slept in and he lied about it, and they docked him for lying. Not that they thought he was cheating, but because he's like, no, it was my internet, he's overslept. Oversleeping and then lying? Sounds like my teenage years. Sounds maybe even more recent than that, but definitely my teenage years. What you gonna do? These folks are elevated by their visibility and skill, and, just a kid. So, that's Grandmasters. Really looking forward to seeing, Nalgadon, Possessi, and Frenetic in the World Championships. I admit that I was hoping to see Blitzchung make it there, but maybe he does next season. Because, boy, it would be a lot of fun to see Blitzchung win the World Championship after, the stuff with the thing happened a couple years back. Qualifiers. So last weekend there were qualifiers. Remember that the mini set came out on Thursday during the middle of the day, and then there was there were qualifiers that night. The decks were pretty safe, and if you look at off curve, the deck lists of the winners, there's a red column of just Rush Warrior for I think like 20 qualifiers in a row, a lot of them. So a lot of Rush Warrior, a lot of Priest, and a lot of Rogue. The decks that were not Paladin. The best decks were Rush Warrior, Rogue, and Death Rattle Demon Hunter. Priest and Druid did fine. They were just above 50%, but those are the top three. The most banned deck was Priest by a lot, and Paladin and Warlock were both huge traps with very low win rate. We will see how that happens this weekend with the upcoming qualifiers after about a week of refinement. I expect to see more Shaman, for example, but last week people played it safe. And the first Vicious Syndicate report for New Ladder is out. Definitely recommend reading it over. A lot has changed with the mini set, though a lot of that as well was the Hand of Adal nerf. And boy, I don't think that any of us really realized how much that card was propping Paladin up, because we knew it was good. But holy cow, 1 health makes a big difference. Makes a big difference. I played against Paladin the other day, and they buffed their minion from a 1-1 to a 3-2. Just kill those. They just die. You just die to whatever you want to hit them with. Died to Tusk Piercer hero power. If that was a 3-3, that would have stuck. So, there's been quite a bit of change at the top of the ladder. In terms of power levels, regular legend ranks, Face Hunter's the best deck. Death Rattle Demon Hunter is actually in number 2. Then 2 Shaman archetypes, Token Druid, and Rush Warrior. And the best Paladin archetype is the bottom of tier 3. Holy crap. They hit it. I don't know if they overdid it, but Paladin got no new cards from the mini set, and then lost their early game. I don't know.
I am excited to try Kibler's Paladin, though.
Yes. Well, he's playing a Caravan on purpose, so...
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I suppose Paladin is back to being the underdog. I don't know. Paladin was good since the since the end of Ashes. Ashes number 6. The last Ashes. There were 6 Ashes. The 6th one, after they nerfed Demon Hunter again, and after they nerfed DQA and Galakron Rogue, when the best deck was Highlander Hunter, and the Pure Paladin was very good then, because Enrage Warrior couldn't deal with all the beef, and Demon Hunter wasn't necessarily fast enough to beat you when fighting for board. And then Scholomance came out. First week of Scholomance, remember, Pure Paladin was the day 2 deck. With Argent Braggarts, you would beat the Druids. And then later that expansion, Funky Monkey, invented Libroom Paladin, and it was really good for the entirety of Scholomance and Darkman Fair, and, of course, it was super busted at the beginning of Barons. So they nerfed it, they fixed it, they finally made a nerf that mattered. They got it. But... remember how I said there are 2 Shaman archetypes in Tier 1? Remember how I said that? That new class? Y'all want to talk about the new class? Let's go!
So, Decksplanations this time is Shaman, and pretty much every kind of Shaman, to be honest. I was worried towards the beginning. I thought that we had just degenerated into Doomhammer Shaman. It turns out elementals is a thing you can do, sometimes even with Whack-A-Null Hammer. I spoke too soon. Those lists have not gone away as much as I thought they would. But Shaman is really the big winner when it comes to the mini set, because Dungeoneer, obviously, fantastic card. You get to draw 2 on a minion. It's exactly what Shaman needed for pretty much every archetype, just some kind of additional card draw. We were previously running double Primordial Studies and Lady Vash with Talon and maybe Polkelt.
No, we were previously playing different classes.
Okay, those of us who were desperately trying to make Shaman work, that was the card draw engine. So it is a welcome change to be able to just run 2 Dungeoneers, and that's your AI on a stick. So it also got a fantastic 1-drop that is not quite Tunnel Trog, but kind of Tunnel Trog.
I'm going to say it's not quite Mana Worm.
Yeah, I guess that's fair to say. Yeah. So Wailing Vapor, I think it's called. Something like that.
Yes.
1/3 that gets an attack whenever you play an elemental. This thing can get out of hand quickly. And then it also got a card that I very much underestimated, which is
Perpetual Flame. Yes.
Yeah, Perpetual Flame. 1 mana, deal 3 to a random enemy minion, and Overload 1, recast this if it dies. And it turns out, I thought this was a bug. It is not a bug. If you cast this against Death Rattle Demon Hunter, pretty much all of their sort of mid-game minions die to 3 damage. And the things that they summon die to 3 damage. And this will recast until Death Rattles stop popping out more things. So you get to potentially go 1 mana, clear the most impossible of sticky boards, and just skip your next turn. And that's worth it more than I expected.
Also, Soul of the Forest, if that's what you're running into. If your opponent has Glowfly Swarm, Bloom, Soul of the Forest, or whatever, you'll overload for 14, but all their stuff will die. Take the trade. I don't know. It's fine. Perpetual Flame has been the card that has seen the most uptick in the last 48 hours. And it's strong. It is a strong card. Better than I thought. We also confirmed it works the way you want it to with Kel'Thuzad, where it checks after all the casts are done and gives you everything that died, and just flip the board. Just give it a little flipperoonie. So,
really, really strong. That usually wins games.
There are a lot of ways to take advantage of it, but this format right now, Druid's good. Rush Warrior softens up their own minions a lot, so often it triggers a bunch of times. Rogue is all 2/1s and 3/2s and whatever, all tiny minions. And Death Rattle Demon Hunter, obviously. It's all 3/2s and 3/3s that spit out more 2/2s and 3/3s and 1/1s and whatever, and they all die. They all die. I have been kind of surprised at how powerful it feels. It's quite good. And there are a bunch of different strategies that are trying to work with Perpetual Flame right now, including a really fun one that Ranlet came up with that we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, I've been impressed by this card. And it was not in a lot of the original lists. It does have anti-synergy with Dungeoneer, because it's a fire spell. So you have to make peace with the fact that sometimes you're not going to draw the elemental. But a bunch of lists are only running Cage Match just to get Doomhammer. So if you whiff on that, it's less of a big deal.
Well, and then also, you can just keep it every time. I mean, I saw Kale's Luna and Nails were running 1 copy of Perpetual Flame in their Doomhammer deck just because it was so good against Token Shaman, and Death Rattle Demon Hunter, which can otherwise be challenging matchups.
Token Druid, I assume.
Wait, did I?
You said Token Shaman.
Or, sorry, Token Druid. That's the one.
Yes. No Bloodlust. Bloodlust gone.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think my guess is this came about because someone got it off Wandmaker and was like, "This is really good in this matchup. Maybe we should just run this like one of." And yeah, turns out it's pretty effective.
So we have 6 Shaman archetypes we want to talk about. Now, keep in mind, these are not all equal levels of viability or equal levels of refinement. There are a couple big ones that you're gonna see, and then a few more that you probably won't see, but it might be worth playing. The link for all these deck lists and all the codes, and where appropriate, the attributions to the tweets about the decks are all in our show notes, and there's a link in our chat if you want to check these out. Also, feel free to ask us on Discord or whatever. We'll post this with the episode. But there is a link to all of the decks, so you can check them out. Definitely recommend it. But we should start with Edelweiss's favorite deck, Aggro Doomhammer Shaman. I know you don't like it.
It's so depressing.
It depends. If you're my opponent, yes. I did have a game with base list, but with a similar list, where I almost lost. I needed 3 damage off my Fireheart, because I had Doomhammer equipped, I had Stormstrike, I had Rockbiter, but they were at 19. To only deal 16. So I cast Fireheart. Get a Rockbiter. Okay, that doesn't help me, though, because I only have 6 mana left. I can't go Rockbiter, Stormstrike. So I play the Rockbiter, I get another Rockbiter. Okay, now I'm fine if I just get a Lightning Bolt. No, I discovered a 3rd Rockbiter. And then I played that and I killed them, and then that 3rd Rockbiter got me the Lightning Bolt. Didn't need it. But I had it. So yeah, Wind Fury's good. Believe it or not.
And I think what's kind of made this sort of even more effective than something like Weapon Rogue is, okay, no, you don't have Conceal. Like you can't, or sorry, Cloak of Shadows. You don't have the Ice Block turn. You can't go Stealth. But there's really good removal in Shaman right now, and it's very high tempo. So you get to run something like Torrent potentially to the list we have on stream is a little bit different, but yeah, running Torrents is great against Rush Warrior or just for 1 mana killing pretty much whatever you want.
Well, with Diligent Note Taker, it's 2 mana to kill 2 things that you want, which is also very enjoyable.
And having the redundancy for finding your Doomhammer when you've got your Dungeoneer drawing a Cage Match Custodian, which draws you the weapon, it's actually pretty consistent to get both Doomhammers, and you usually just need the one, to be clear. But getting the other one out of your deck means fewer dead draws, and it also means that if you get oozed, you've got a backup. And the way you play this deck against control is you just kind of feel it out. They get out 1 ooze, and then you can wait to equip. Like if you think they might have another ooze, you can like wait to equip that second Doomhammer until you're just going to do 22 damage in 1 turn with Rockbiter weapon and Storm Strikes. It's basically against against Warrior, you get the Wind Fury with your Rockbiters or Storm Strikes as soon as you can fit it in, so that you don't get bulwarked. And against Priest, you kind of wait until it's the thing that's going to kill them, because you don't want them to heal it all back up. And
and you avoid going too wide because of Summero Apo.
Right. It's pretty effective against both of those classes. So Control Warrior has a really bad win rate right now. I think Priest probably not so hot at most levels either.
Priest has been the higher rank you go, the better it does, and it barely breaks 50 until you hit top 1000, but it's a good tournament deck. Control Warrior is bait. It's not a great deck. But overall, when you look at Doom, Hammer Shaman, Aggro Shaman, whatever you want to call it, and the list we have featured here is the Vicious Syndicate list, which is running Brukan for more burst damage from hand, but there are a bunch of different builds out there. Kayla's Luna got rank 1, and Nails is also doing well with a slightly different list, like you said, had the one Perpetual Flame. And the way to counter this deck, just play Face Hunter. They can't catch up with the damage. No healing. The removal doesn't matter. You just play Face Hunter, you just hit, you just shoot them. Also, hilarious enough, the worst matchup for this deck, Libram Paladin, which beats basically nothing else, but destroys the Doomhammer deck. Demolishes it. So, that's an option. But otherwise, you have a highly favorable matchup against any kind of control deck, including Priest, and also, obviously, very good in Mage. I would say that this deck doesn't remind me so much of Poison Rogue as it does Soul Demon Hunter. You have less healing, but you have Dunk Tank feels a lot like a Shard Shatter Mystic sometimes, or a Blade Dance, and Torrent feels a lot like, well, I don't know if Torrent has an analogy, but you just kill stuff a lot. More so than Poison Rogue ever felt interested in doing, and you're pretty good at. But you played a little bit of this too, right?
Yeah, I was surprised how many good nature spells there are. There are a lot of very good nature spells, and you can play almost all of them, and Primal Dungeoneer is good. Like, it's interesting because almost it feels like the elemental you draw off Dungeoneer almost doesn't matter. Just drawing nature spells is good. Obviously, getting the extra card is beneficial, but it really just felt like, oh hey, all my spells in this deck are nature spells, and so I can play Dungeoneer and always get an elemental. And then I was like, but this elemental feels redundant usually.
It's just more draw, right? It's just more velocity to the deck, and you have a 2-drop, but I feel like Dungeoneer is make sure I hit my Doomhammer on 5 in case my draw is mediocre, and also get a nature spell that I probably want. And right. Shaman has had good support spells for a while, just hasn't really been lined up all that well to win the game. And Doomhammer's been a win condition the whole time, but when you play against a lot of Paladins, it doesn't work. And so by Paladin leaving the metagame, the most important addition to this deck was the subtraction of Hand of Adal. Because that made Paladin not able to function in the early game, which made Libram not something you can get to and survive, which makes this deck better against all the other stuff. So that was the one piece that really changed. Of course, Dungeoneer is awesome. Of course, Wailing Vapor is awesome. But Paladin getting out of the way has been the most important thing for both Hunter, which is currently the best deck, and had a miserable Paladin matchup before, still does, but you can still beat them now because their early stuff doesn't stick. And then also Shaman. So
yeah, Wailing Vapor hasn't felt amazing to me, honestly. It feel like I definitely see that it's a powerful card, but it also feels like it's managed pretty easily and doesn't get in a lot of damage for me. I think the Mana Worm comparison is obviously very good, except I like this card and I didn't like Mana Worm.
This card's a lot harder to maximize, right?
Like Shaman.
Yeah.
Right, and it just feels like your opponent can deal, like, it gets in 3 damage, it feels like most of the time to me. It gets in its 3 damage, and then it gets dealt with the spell, because the rest of... this deck just doesn't play minions that are, like, matter.
When Zach was refining this deck, his original pass in Elemental Shaman did not have Wailing Vapor, because, like, why are we playing a Dire Maul? And then he looked at the stats, and he's like, you kind of need this card, but it totally doesn't feel impressive in the Doomhammer build, because you have, like, 4 Elementals in the deck, I think. It doesn't feel impressive, but you need it, and the Mulligan stats are very good. If you have it in the Mulligan, especially if you have Custodian on 2, it's strong. It's too strong to not play, but it doesn't feel as overwhelming as 1-mana 1/3s that have been good have felt in the past.
Yeah, it doesn't feel nearly as strong as, like, a Northshire Cleric or a Mana Worm used to feel, but I could definitely see it still being on the same level as those in terms of the power level. It feels like Doomhammer does almost all of the heavy lifting in this deck completely.
I will say that there are some invisible elements at play when it comes to Vapor, because those first couple of turns, it's impossible to tell whether it is the strict Doomhammer deck or if it is the heavy elemental deck, which can obviously capitalize more on this card. The only way that you will be able to tell the difference is if they play the one drop that reduces. If they go
Kindling
like,
elemental. Yeah.
if they go Vapor, Coin, Kindling, and then you're like, oh god, they're gonna hit me with the 2/5 Wind Fury next turn. But otherwise, you kind of, you say you've gotten it cleared a lot, but that's because it's a must-kill minion. And you don't really know, okay, is this just going to hit me for 2 a couple times? Or is this going to have the potential to just like keep growing and growing? And honestly, no matter how much it hits you for, you can't really let it stick around too much because of how much damage this deck can deal in terms of burst. I think regularly you just take 22 damage in 1 turn. So any bit of chip damage that happens in the first couple of turns just lets you accelerate the clock.
I mean, it's a must kill in a deck that doesn't have anything else that it cares about killing. So
yeah,
like...
but the first few turns are when like people haven't gotten to build up resources, right? So if you miss on removal for those first few turns and it gets a little bit more damage than it's supposed to, yes, they're able to clear it by, turn 3 or whatever. But it's already done its job to some extent.
Right. I'm not saying it's not worthy of an inclusion. It just hasn't felt impressive to me. That's what.
Sure.
That was my
I
only
think
point.
if you want it to feel very impressive, that's where you play the decks with way more elementals.
Right.
But even then, it is by far the best card in the mulligan, even with this reduced elemental suite, because it is your only real proactive one, and proactive ones are good. So, looking at the mulligan stats for a similar build, the most common in HS Replay, the cards that you are looking for in the mulligan: Wailing Vapor, by far the best keep. Cage Match Custodian, second place. Third best keep. What's the guess?
Straight up Doomhammer?
False.
No. Wait.
The second worst.
Dungeoneer?
No. Dungeoneer's top 5, but actually below the average win rate of the deck. Lightning Bloom.
Serpent. Oh, right.
So
makes sense.
it isn't kept
in the mirror,
as often.
If you bloom out Hammer, you usually win.
Well, if you bloom out Inara, let me tell you, blooming Inara is my favorite thing to do.
Ooh.
Yeah, especially like turn 2 coin bloom Inara, and Inara is actually one of the better keeps in the deck with a 14% keep rate, which means you keep it if you have bloom, and bloom means you keep it if you have something to do. So those 2 cards are going to ride along. Don't normally keep Inara. Don't normally keep Doomhammer. Don't ever keep Doomhammer, really. But bloom is, people underestimate how valuable it is to just jump ahead a little bit with big damage. And bloom is really, really strong, though you don't keep it with every hand. But outside of the ones and the twos.
Oh, really? You don't keep bloom with every hand?
No,
That's so interesting.
It
It's
has
almost
overload.
like,
If it didn't have overload, then we would absolutely keep it. That'd be preparation. We know we keep that. So anyways, also Primal Dungeoneer
except the
is...
preparation also is somewhat situational because it doesn't work with every hand.
Yeah, the situations that you have rogue spells in your deck. I can't imagine having rogue spells. So anyways, Primal Dungeoneer kept a lot, not actually that strong of a keep. It's fine. It is number 5, but is kept 84% of the time and is below the average win rate of the deck. So don't keep Dungeoneer going first if you don't have a 1 or a 2 or a bloom. It's overkept a little bit. But that's just the Doomhammer build. It's not the only Shaman deck. Oh, there are so many more. Elemental Shaman. Is it here? Is it real? Is it a real thing? Maybe. Actually, kind of, yeah. It's kind of okay. Have you played any Ellie Shaman, Edelweiss?
I have not played lists that other people have. Actually, I think I made a list and then didn't get around to it because I was just playing Control. But
Sounds about right.
I built very differently than other people. I did a list with the 4-mana Wind Fury Elemental and Mist Runner, so it's more about and the only spell is Lightning Bloom. So it's
boy.
more about sticking a Wind Fury minion and then blooming out Mist Runner for big damage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Vicious Syndicate elemental list, it does also run Dunk Tanks and Serpent Shrine Portals and Lightning Bolts. But you could build a list where you run only Bloom. This list doesn't even run Bloom. Elemental Shaman has a lot less refinement. It is a less refined deck so far. It's not seeing quite as much play. I know Baby Bear was doing well with it. This is where you run Whack-A-Null Hammer over Doomhammer almost every time, just because Whack-A-Null Hammer is so strong early on. And you get to play with some pretty powerful cards. Kindling Elemental into Arid Stormer is obviously great. Arid Stormer, the 2/5. If you played an Elemental last turn, it gains Rush and Wind Fury. If you hit that, is awesome. Gyre Worm? Is it Gyre or Gyre? Gyre? Gyre.
Gyroscope, Gyre Worm.
Sure, we'll go with that. This card's nuts.
I guess people say that both ways too. I don't know.
I have had games where I had an active Stormer on 2 and Gyre Worm was better. Because it's a Serpent Shrine Portal with no overload. You get a 3/2, it deals 3 damage, and then it keeps your elemental chain going. It activates your Arid Stormer for turn 3. So, I have been very impressed with Gyre Worm. And Lilypad Lurker is a 5/6 now. It's so big. It's so big. Really great against Talons. Really great against Apotheosis minions. Really good against Death Rattle Demon Hunter. In general, basically everything they're trying to do. It's a very large minion. Fire Elemental deals 4 now. It's really great. And then the Vicious Syndicate list runs Alex over Alakir for the main reason that if you Dungeoneer on 3 and you draw an Alakir, you are very sad. Because you want something to do, and Alakir doesn't come online for a while, so you put Alex in instead, and it deals 8. But Elemental Shaman also seeing a good bit of play, and also performing just fine, even though it's a little bit less visible. It's a good deck, and it has a very different matchup spread. You lose to Face Hunter a lot less. You are... Let's see. You're better against Paladins by a lot because Lilypad Lurker. You are favored in those matchups. You are much worse against Rush Warrior. And... I don't know. There's some ups and downs there. A little better against Lifesteal Demon Hunter because you just play Beef all the time. But both of these decks are pretty viable. You could play either one. And I think that Shaman having multiple viable archetypes is great.
I got Whack-A-Nulled into Rock Rager last night.
Into what?
Rock Rager?
A
5
5/1
mana... 5 or 2 mana 5/1.
With taunt.
With taunt.
Yeah.
But it was a 6/2.
Ooh. And you were playing
Hey,
Death Rattle
here's
Demon Hunter?
that down.
No, I was playing Mage, so it died, but
Oh.
it was still kind of sweet.
Well, Rock Rager had his day, and then you killed him.
Yeah, I mean, 6/2s are really scary. If I didn't have something to kill it, it would have been too much damage for me to handle.
And looking at the Mulligan win rate stats, can you guess what the best cards are? It's the
Vapor.
ones.
Cage Match.
Kindling Elemental
Arid
is also
Stormer?
really good.
Kindling Elemental, sure.
Yeah. The best keeps are 1, 1, 2, 3, 3. Surprise! Wailing Vapor, Kindling Elemental, always keep those. Cage Match Custodian, always keep that. Arid Stormer, if you have an activator, keep that. And Gyre Worm, if you have an activator, keep that. Yeah. The stuff you play to open the curve. You want those cards.
Yep.
And my favorite version of Elemental Shaman does both. This is Base Dink's deck. She hit rank 14 legend with this. It's so good. She gave me this deck list. And I said, hey, this seems good. And then I destroyed people. I won the Shaman Mirror on turn 6 in one game with because it plays Kazakus.
Wow.
Because I went Kazakus into 5/5 Stealth Copy. Not a lot of great answers to Stealth Copy. So, this list, I'm going to describe it because, audio listeners are out there. So, you cut the 4s, the Dunk Tanks and the Torrents. I missed Torrent Dunk Tank is a card that is surprisingly difficult to corrupt, and when you corrupt it with a Doomhammer, you can't play it the next turn. So I find myself wanting to corrupt it more than they actually do. I didn't miss those. Torrent's a great card. Really, really great card. I wish we had it. But instead, we get a Shaman that has access to Doomhammer and the Doomhammer package. And also has access to Stormer, Gyreworm, and Lilypad Lurker. And the 1-drops. And you still get to keep Diligent Note Taker, which you use with either Lightning Blooms or Wind Fury attack boosters and kill people. And you have Kazakus instead of all your other 4s. And sometimes you just play him on curve and he is Kazakus. And that's pretty good. So, I have found this deck to be the best of both worlds so far. Base 30th card is Lurker Below. You don't need to craft that if you don't have it. You can include a Menacing Nimbus and it's just fine. She tried a Naralex and that was okay. She tried, I tried a Wriggling Horror. It was okay. I think Lurker Below is probably the best card, but a Menacing Nimbus is totally fine. And I don't know. This has been the most fun version I've played so far because you get to do both things at the same time. You don't have to choose.
I imagine this involves a little bit more sort of, or is a little bit more skill intensive just because you need to do more planning out your turns and thinking ahead. Because with the straight elemental list, you're able to consistently hit your elemental trigger. Whereas this runs fewer elementals since you've got both worlds going on. And obviously the straight aggro list, like you don't have to worry about the elemental trigger. But here, like trying to activate Stormer, Gyreworm, Lilypad Lurker when you need to, you're gonna need to plan it out. But
Yeah,
Kazakus we've known is strong, and Wandmaker is in everything, even the control decks, because Wandmaker is insane for Shaman right now.
A lot of really good ones out there. And yeah, it's the elementals that we're cutting are mostly the expensive ones, the Earth Revenants and the Fire Elemental. And if you want more activators, you can cut the Lurker Below for Menacing Nimbus, and then you're only off by 1 for minions that cost less than 4. But yeah, I hold Kindling Elemental a lot when I have 1 mana left over. Like, you just don't need to play it if you need to keep the chain going and make sure Lurker stays activated. But it's more skill intensive, except for when you curve out 1, 2, 3, and then you're fine. And also you can just, like, bloom out Doomhammer stuff or kill people. It's, I don't know, it feels like you just don't have to make that many compromises to do a little bit of everything, and you get a lot of value out of it. So this has been the Shaman deck that I've enjoyed the most right now, at least until I try to play the Spell Booster Shaman deck. That's also, we'll talk about that in a second. But this is a lot of fun and quite powerful. And I've been mulling basically the same way. I will keep Kindling Elemental, Wailing Vapor, Cage Match Custodian, and then if I have activators, either Stormer or Gyreworm. There are times I'll keep Wandmaker on the draw if I have a 1 already, but you don't have to. It's not that great. So yeah. But there's more. There's even more than this. Edelweiss, tell me about Control Shaman. I'm going to put a list on the screen that is not at all like yours. It's Funky Monkey's list.
No, it's not.
Tell me about Control Shaman.
I still need to try this out. I think Funky Monkey is better prepared for Face Shaman. Like, that's actually a matchup that mine can struggle with a bit. I'm sort of more focused on dealing with Token Druid, Death Rattle Demon Hunter, kind of warrior, and I beat Priest pretty consistently. But yeah, Control Shaman has a few tricks up its sleeve. We mentioned how Perpetual Flame is really good, in particular against some of those sticky boards that other decks may struggle with. You just get to say, "Hey, let me skip my next turn," and not have to deal with that. Funky Monkey's list is a little bit different. It's not straight nature spells. You've got Guidance and Primordial Studies for value. It still has Lady Vosh, so you can sometimes draw 0 mana spells in that sense. I think the big similarities are Tidal Surge plus, Diligent Note Taker can be a great way to heal up a bunch, just to like get more of those. Tidal Wave, obviously great into things like Rogue that can do a bunch of chip damage early. Death Rattle Demon Hunter, like being able to reno in a card is quite strong. and Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad we started putting in basically because of Primordial Flame.
Perpetual.
Perpetual Flame, which you can get off wand makers. Another cool thing is you run Narrowlex. Narrowlex is like the man-crick of control decks. And Ysera Awakens does 5 damage to everything. Headmaster Kel'Thuzad has 6 health. So you can do that. You can play Kel'Thuzad, Ysera Awakens, clear big, mid-sized board, and he'll survive to give you all the stuff you killed. So you are drawing Marsh Spawn as your elementals off of Dungeoneer, so you get some extra value that way. Funky Monkey has Rune Dagger as the weapon with a copy of Cage Match Custodian because spell damage is really good with things like Landslide and Tidal Wave. But where we differ is he's really got a value control kind of plan, and I guess he beats Priest with Burn. I'm sort of mystified by his Priest wins with this deck. It certainly is. It's a choose your own adventure control deck. There's a lot of discovering and generation in this between Guidance, Primordial Studies, Wand Maker, Marsh Spawn, a copy of Venomous Scorpid. Like it's got a lot of things going on. Instructor Fireheart as well. Whereas mine has a pretty clear win condition in Alakir Kill You. I finish with the Alakir OTK, which is you get Nightmare off Ysera, which is guaranteed. Since you get Ysera cards in order of mana cost, starting with 0. You'll always get...
and then Note Taker stuff. Alakir Bloom, Note Taker, Note Taker, Nightmare.
Yeah. You usually don't need all 3 nightmares. It's generally just against Priest that you might need all 3. Pretty consistently hit people for 22 though, with just 1 Note Taker and the Nightmare. Occasionally good. You get Nightmare off of Narrowlex, and so that you can go off earlier and really surprise people. I have Magtheridon because the change to Lightning Storm means that it's totally worth overloading 2 for a guaranteed 3 to everything. So you've got access to 7 mana Mag Storm.
Or Mag Flame. Mag Perpetual Flame.
Or Mag Flame. Mag Flame is a little weird because if you're going to guaranteed kill the warders, then you would have cleared the board with Flame anyway. Yeah. But of note, if you do high roll and hit the warders before everything else on the board, Mag clears the rest, so you don't overload as much as you would have. And of course, if you're against an OTK Demon Hunter or something, it's worth it to just coin out Mag and then Flame to kill the warders because you just need a 12/12 to hit him in the face. So there's always that aggressive option. Yeah, Shaman has really strong spells right now. I want to run more than I do. Chain Lightning is good, and it just cannot fit in the deck. And I want to run Landslide, but I don't have enough Overload to go with it. It's kind of bizarre, but Landslide is best in a deck that runs Zappy Boy, which is usually more aggressive. It's a counter tempo card, more than a control card a lot of the time.
It looks like a Flame Imp, but it's actually a half price Stalnos.
Yeah. So there's so many ways you can go with Shaman, and this is kind of what those of us that have been playing the class for a while now have been saying, is that Shaman has so many good cards, it just was missing card draw. And now that piece of the puzzle is sort of inserted into the collection, it opens up so many possibilities that we don't know what to do because there's just a ton of really, really strong cards.
And speaking of... Well, this is kind of a control shaman. There's a very different approach to powering up spells and killing stuff with them. Ramlet built this deck. Hockey Boys recommended it in our Discord. I've called this Spell Boost Shaman, where it's you kind of take what you're talking about, Elvis, as far as the control and the card draw and the removal, and has really, really exceptional removal. Except instead of Alakir and other minions and various control tools, you just kill them with the Doomhammer. So this is Soul Demon Hunter, basically, right? It's you take out the elementals from Aggro Shaman. You take them out. You take out the Lightning Blooms. Take out all the elementals except Cage Match. You take out the, any of the mid-rangey minions if you're playing a Ghidra or Brukan or whatever. And we add in Moarg Artificer and Nava Zapper are kind of your spell boosters that really amplify your removal, along with Kel'Thuzad. We'll get to him. Double Perpetual Flame, double Landslide, and double Tidal Surge, the 3-mana deal 4 with Lifesteal, and you still have a Dunk Tank, still have 2 Torrents, and then the Doomhammer package. With the Diligent Note Takers, your Torrents can kill whatever, kill 2 things. Zapper Landslide is 4 damage to the enemy board, while it's 2 damage twice, which is way better than 4 damage right now. Moarg makes Perpetual Flame deal 6 with each hit. I had a game yesterday where I was against a big Demon Hunter, Death Rattle Demon Hunter. They had Fell Summoner, the 6-mana 8/3 that when it dies, it poops out a demon. Their Talon had died, so I knew they had an 8/8, the Ildar Inquisitor. So I go Nava Zapper, Moarg, Perpetual Flame. Kill the 8/3, the 8/8 pops out, the 8/8 dies to a single cast Perpetual Flame because it dealt 8. Hey, they're dead. So, really surprised me with how powerful it is. Difficult to play, very challenging, and you have no board to speak of. So you can tempo out Moarg because you don't really play a lot of minions here. The goal here is to kill people from hand. With Wind Fury damage and General Burn, you might play a few things early on, and you might hit people with a Nava Zapper here and there, but you're not looking to curve out. And this is definitely less tested. It's a lot of fun to play. It feels different, and it feels like nothing can ever stick on the board, as well as sometimes you like Moarg, Tidal Surge, gain 8, and just having life gain. It's really good in this format. People are Alexing, people are trying to kill you from hand, there are other Shaman decks out there, and you're like, alright, I guess I'll just kill your Lily Pad Lurker or whatever and gain 8. Cool. Or you can just go, if you go Moarg Perpetual Flame, that kills a Lily Pad Lurker for 1 mana now and 1 mana next turn. Worth it. You can just fire it out there.
Yeah, and Kel'Thuzad is so powerful, not just with Perpetual Flame, but with Torrent.
I stole a Troublemaker yesterday. That's my Troublemaker now.
An unbuffed Troublemaker is like the best thing to see when you've got Kel'Thuzad Torrent. Because you kill theirs, you make your own, and your 3/3s kill their 3/3s, ideally.
Yep. It's fun, worth trying out. We have less cogent things to say about like the mulligans and the matchups because it's kind of its own thing with limited sample size, but it's a lot of fun to play and it feels pretty powerful. And then the last Shaman deck, I am pleased to tell you it is not good. I am pleased to tell you it is too unreliable because it is Evolve Shaman and it is a one-trick deck. There are various builds. It's not really something that's worth pursuing because it's unreliable, but Selfless Sidekick, the 7-mana 6/6 that yoinks a weapon out of your deck and equips it. When it gets Bog Spine Knuckles, you get an 8-drop. Really good with Lightning Bloom, but you only get to do it once. You don't get to get weapons back. So you don't have the Horde Pillager, which is the real power behind the original Evolve Shaman build. But it does exist. If you want to play something goofy that will occasionally high roll, you can do that. We recommend against Evolve Shaman, but I will say that I played 2 games with this. Both games, I bloomed out a Selfless Sidekick on turn 3, and then I retired the deck. So, just saying.
Yeah, hey. I do not want this one to be good.
It's not. Don't worry, it's not good. So, we have all these decks, all these codes in the show notes. We have all the links to Twitter in the show notes. I'm so glad we have all this Shaman to talk about. It's a really fun class to play. It's really enjoyable. I'm glad to have it back.
I was rather salty to start out with because it was so disappointing to me to see Doomhammer being like just the best thing you could do in Shaman, and I'm scaling that back a little bit because it seems like there is some room for other things. Those things tend to lose to the Doomhammer, but they're still really strong against like other classes, and there's a lot to be experimented with in Shaman. Like we have these good decks, and some of them are optimized, others are not. So it's very exciting. I am looking forward though to next year, like 4-set meta next year. I'm so curious about, because it'll be a new core, and we'll have the additional 70 cards that we didn't this time around, and we will be minus the sort of like bridge generation that was Ashes, Skullomance, and Fair. So
Yeah, mostly Ashes. Skullomance
Mostly
had
Ashes,
some,
yeah.
like, had the studies, but didn't, and Instructor
And
Fireheart,
Wand
I
Thief.
suppose. Oh yeah, and Want the Skullomance had, yeah, it had some. Um,
we love Skullomance hat, but it did have some.
we're gonna look back, and Skullomance, I think
Wand Maker as well.
Skullomance is probably one of the top 5 most powerful sets ever, if not more. Like, it's really, really good. It's just they balance better now, so it doesn't remind us of Knights of the Frozen Throne or whatever, which I think was an objectively weaker set. But, we remember the outliers and the unfixed metas, and there wasn't a ton of that in Skullomance because they nerf so quickly. But either way, I'm happy Shaman is good, and I too am excited for the future. I'm excited just for the 5-set meta. 5-set metas are always the best. Very excited. Well,
Yep.
always except for Knights of the Frozen Throne and One Night in Karazhan. But those were a while ago. It's fine. They figured it out since then. And the Boomsday Project, specifically Saviors after they nerfed Galaxy.
Modern Hearthstone 5-set meta. Alec Dawson 5-set metas are the best.
I just want to say I enjoyed Knights of the Frozen Throne, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Did after the first nerf or before?
Uh,
I don't remember. Death Knights were sweet, and yes, they were too powerful, but they were also sweet and a cool addition to Hearthstone.
That wasn't the card. It was Spreading Plague.
Yes.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Spreading Plague.
I mean,
yes,
Spreading Plague was too strong, and also I liked that. I liked that period of time.
There were ups and downs. I'm happier with the design philosophy and the balance philosophy now, but I did enjoy that standard year.
I did summon a lot of Murlocs.
We have very different memories of Knights of the Frozen Throne.
I just remember that's how I broke through Spreading Plagues. You had to summon a bunch of Murlocs.
I remember running Void Ripper for that. And it was like, it didn't always work.
I don't remember beating Jade Druid before they nerfed it all that much.
Yeah.
We're losing to it. Anyways. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in. And we have so many folks we'd like to thank. Check out the thanks section on the website at coincade.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show, but patreon.com/coincade. Thank you so much for all of our supporters. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.coincade.com. Remember, we are looking for emotes for our channel, so feel free to DM me or send in submissions for an emote that you think is Coincade related would be cool. The top 4 that we pick for the remaining 4 slots will get a merch item on us. Right into our email at coincade@gmail.com. Join our Discord at discord.coincade.com. Follow us on Twitter at coincade, like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coincade. If you like some CC swag, head over to our shop, shop.coincade.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number, Theory, Tinner, Wizard, Doge, TK, Roby, One, Dr. Fish, Crash, Cap, Beast Squatch, David P, Snowpack, and Taro, Lucky, Fade to Black, and Walu. And also our subs during the show, Jufro Breezy, Rozix TV, Wicked Good, thank you for the raid. Proby One, thank you for the 10 subs, you crazy person. Coin Concede, Spoticus, go.
I'm just going to coin concede to a show I've been enjoying a ton, which is Critical Role, who just finished up their 2nd campaign. I can't wait for the wrap-up show of it next week. That's going to be pretty great. And I really can't wait for the 3rd campaign. But they also announced kind of a in-between campaign, which is also pretty exciting, where Matt Mercer is going to actually be a player instead of a GM, which will be very interesting, and they have a cool GM coming in. So I'm looking forward to new episodes in the in-between, but can't wait to see what they do for campaign 3. I almost said season 3, but if these were seasons, oh boy, 100 over 130 episodes for a season is quite a bit.
That's a lot. Did I tell you that I had my first tabletop gaming experience in Texas? When I was there.
I heard about it a little
Yeah.
bit.
We
And
did
I heard
a,
you did really well. And I
guess
am
so.
not surprised in the slightest.
It was so we did a one shot for Pathfinder, which has a lot of
very nice.
mechanics and dice rolling.
It does. It's very
so
crunchy.
We got to picked our characters ahead of time because there's no printer there. So Aaron, the one of the DMs, because there were two DMs, printed out the character sheets ahead of time and like, here are the classes you can be. And I said one of the options was swashbuckler, and I said Drunk Hat's going to want to make as many puns as possible about the word booty, so let's pick that one. And being a swashbuckler was kind of fun. You get to be kind of a jerk, and then also be really stylish about it. And I was like, I can do that. I can totally do that. And then, yeah, the other people I played with said that they didn't know it was my first time because I talked. And I guess the talking isn't the thing that people do in tabletop things.
Yeah, I think most of the time it's sort of like either you're into the crunchy tabletop gameplay or you're good at the like role play, and it's kind of like most people don't do both things. That's part of what makes Critical Role so special, is they're all voice actors, so they really get into character.
Yeah. Critical Role, they have much higher production value than we did.
Well, sure.
Yeah. I just kind of like yelled at the other people whenever they did something, and they were like, you're doing good at role-playing. It's like, okay. Sure.
I mean, it's just about being able to talk and make up stuff on the spot, which kind of defines Hat. So
I make stuff up all the time. I'm doing 2 podcasts a day. All I do is make stuff up. I don't even have to know what I'm talking about. Advice. Coin concedes.
So Coin Concede to Race C for reasons described in the intro. Had a great time there, and giving him all my energy for next week. And then also Coin Concede to a podcast that was on the back burner for me for quite some time, because I had sort of set Hades aside. That is Hidden Aspects, run by a certain co-host.
It's on indefinite hiatus right now.
I was just catching up on the backlog of episodes. Really great guests. One of the voice actors, a bunch of people from the Hearthstone community.
Isn't Courtney just the most perfect cinnamon bun you've ever talked to?
Oh my god,
she's so wonderful.
Amazing. So good. I just want to like meet her and have a fun time playing Hades.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to it while stuck in traffic outside New York City and staring at the red Tesla in front of me, and kind of like filled with envy, and also just like wanting to get home and try some high heat runs on my favorite weapon while listening to Angel with a Shotgun on repeat. So probably going to do that after the show.
That sounds fun. All right, so my coin concedes. Hey, Blizzlet, congrats on 200 episodes. Amazing. They are, by the way, live broadcasting in 40 minutes, and they're having 2 special guests. So instead of just Daniel and Ted and Eve, they're also being joined by Lord Agrebus and Jack Myone Johnson. Myone's his middle name. And that's pretty exciting. The original founders, and Tito Santana and Doc McButt put together a video of a bunch of people writing testimonials. They got Cora and her dad, and Cora's dad was wearing an Artifact shirt and said he had never listened to the show. It was amazing. It was so good. Very on brand. Let's see. Cassidy, friend in the WoW Guild, he got married past weekend. His wedding that was on. I met him through THL when Ungoro came out, 2016, and I watched him get married 5 years later. So Hearthstone really does make lifelong friendships. Thanks, Blizzard, and thanks, Cassidy. Congratulations. Itinerant Wizard, one of our producers, talked to him about some life stuff, and I think that he's a great dude. So Coin Concede you, Itinerant Wizard. Basting, thanks for the deck, and Mike LaSalvage, thank you for the nice tweet that you made. I appreciate you. Try and bring nuance to the world of gaming conversation. Don't always get there, but I try. And that's going to do it. So, keep calm and play Welling Vapor on 1. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right. Stopping recording. I have to figure out why my internet connection for some reason is being a little spotty. I'm not sure if it's Discord or it's me. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. You're great. Appreciate you. And I'm going to go teach Edelweiss how to edit audio. Ooh.
You're doing that this week?
I'm doing that tonight.
Yeah.
Like in 20 minutes.
I have bad news for you after you cut off the audio.
Did you mess up your recording?
Oh, no.
What did you mess up?
Oh,
What'd you do?
No.
Was it your laptop mic? Or your webcam mic?
No.
What was it? All right. Stream, good night. Good night, stream. Bye, stream.
Bye, stream.
Bye.